Hi everyone, Teddy Baldassarre with TeddyBaldassarre.com, and in this video we're looking at a classic from Omega with the OMEGA Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch with a Sapphire sandwich construction. So if you're new to this channel, this is where we cover watches available for purchase on our website, TeddyBaldassarre.com, as an authorized dealer. So in this video, deep dive on this timepiece, final points of consideration at the end, but also throughout the video, if you have further questions or looking to buy this watch or have a question for one of my team members, reach out to us on live chat and also check out in the description some of the links to the product pages. Without further ado, let's jump into the video and take a closer look at this watch. The term icon gets thrown around a lot in this industry, many times without any real justification, but that is definitely not the case today. There's absolutely no question that the manual winding OMEGA Speedmaster Moonwatch is a real deal, blue ribbon, 1000% genuine icon in a crowded field of pretenders. There are a host of models under the larger Speedmaster umbrella. However, it is the Moonwatch that is the core of what has allowed the Speedmaster name to elevate amongst the pantheon of the watch industry's greats. Not counting precious metal versions, there are three main iterations of the modern day Moonwatch. The Hesalite version that is most closely resembling the original that landed on the moon during the Apollo era, being available on a bracelet and on a strap. And then there being two Sapphire sandwich choices with each coming on bracelet and strap. One in white that we saw released earlier this year, and the other in classic black. In this video, we take a closer look at the black dial Sapphire sandwich, walking through the specifics in this review and sharing what to consider as you make the tough decision between this and perhaps the Hesalite version. So what exactly does the phrase Sapphire sandwich mean, and how is it different than the Hesalite version? Now, Omega refreshed the Moonwatch lineup in 2021, now featuring the updated 3861 coaxial master chronometer movement in two black dial versions, the vintage correct Hesalite or acrylic crystal with a solid case back, and then the Sapphire version boasting a dome crystal on the front and a Sapphire display case back giving view of the 3861 caliber. Of course, the Hesalite version skews closer to the original Speedmaster that was qualified by NASA, still sporting the closed case back with the flight qualified inscription intact. And then there's that milky edge of the Hesalite that imbues a warmer presentation compared to the Sapphire. But make no mistake, we can't overstate the idea that these are so drastically different in their presentation. Omega's done a nice job of having the Sapphire version maintain the charm of the historic material choice from the 1960s, all while delivering the added convenience of superior scratch resistance, along with the magnificent view of the movement on the reverse, with the moon mention for the Sapphire version coming by way of the engraving on the perimeter of the screw-down caseback. The measurements of the Sapphire version are virtually identical to the Hesalite with some small differences. They have a diameter of 42 millimeters, lug to lug of 47.2 millimeters according to my calipers. However, the Sapphire will be thinner by comparison. The Sapphire is going to measure at 13.2 millimeters thick, and the Hesalite measures closer to 13.5 millimeters thick, with that difference all basically coming from that Hesalite doming. Frankly, a big part of why the Speedmaster is such a classic has nothing to do with the space travel and everything to do with simply how beautiful and wearable it is. There's really nothing else like the Speedy Pro case, with its graceful lyre-type lug sweeping down, and even though the crown side is slightly more pronounced, the watch feels balanced with the lines of the case neatly offering protection to the protruding elements. Despite being 42 millimeters in diameter, I would venture to say the Speedmaster Moonwatch Professional is one of the most universally wearable in all of watchmaking. As I've been wearing one for much of the year this year, it's been a very consistent daily driver. The Speedy Pro wears like a traditional 40 millimeter in practice, which makes sense as you measure from one side of the bezel to the other, you get a distance just under 40 millimeters. Simply put, chances are you can pull off this case no matter your wrist size, and I really recommend that you give this watch a shot before you write it off and just see 42 millimeters. The Sapphire sandwich is going to incorporate both brushing and polishing throughout the case. The top portion of the lugs, the case sides, and most of the bracelet links will be brushed, while the turn facet of the lugs, the pusher, the crown, and the interior links of the multi-link bracelet will be done in high polish. The interior links of the bracelet are a key aesthetic difference between the Hesalite and Sapphire, where the Hesalite bracelet is going to be solely brushed. Apart from the movement, one of the biggest changes with the latest 2021 generation of the Moonwatch was with the bracelet. In my opinion, this bracelet is much better than the previous gen, leading to an improved drape on the wrist. The bracelet meets the case at 20 millimeters, tapering down with its screwed-in links to a 15 millimeter clasp. The clasp has a linear pattern etched in it running its length, being signed with the Omega logo on top. The sides of that clasp are going to have a hit of polish at the outermost facet, and then we'll also have two buttons when pressed simultaneously will activate the release of that clasp. In 2021, the clasp came with 2 points of micro adjustment, which would require tools in order to change. Just last year though, Omega swapped to an on-the-fly system, where with the pusher hidden underneath the clasp, you can adjust the bracelet in 2.5mm increments. I absolutely adore this bracelet. It's comfortable, it drapes to the wrist beautifully, but one thing that does bother me about the micro adjustment is that it's all or nothing. In other words, it doesn't have an intermediate point when doing that on the fly. So you're basically just getting the opportunity to go from one point to the other with the on-the-fly adjustment. I've never had this be an issue when sizing up this watch, and what I would recommend is when you do size this for the first time, size it up so that it's comfortable when you have the micro adjustment all the way pressed in. So if you need some relief throughout the day, you can extend it out. The only thing that bothers me is that when you think about on-the-fly adjustment, especially when you don't need tools, is typically you have this wide range to work with. Here you have 2 points to consider. Has you covered, but just something I wanted to mention when looking at this. Surrounding the outer edge of the sapphire crystal is the tachometer bezel insert executed in aluminum. This reference to the past choice has all the charm of the historical references, showing metallic coloration through the numerals and even includes the beloved dot over 90. Before the Speedmaster was a trusted piece of kit by NASA, it was first known as a racing watch, being the first chronograph to feature a tachometer bezel along the outside of the case. This tachometer scale served as a crucial role in the Apollo 13 mission when the astronauts aboard needed to execute an engine burn for precisely 14 seconds, helping to readjust the course of the craft following a major failure during the mission where all the electronics on board became useless. The aesthetics of the Sapphire sandwich dial are familiar to fans of the Headlight Moonwatch, with one larger notable difference, with the Omega logo being applied rather than printed in white on the Headlight version. One characteristic that both references share are the recessed triple registers, along with the step minute track outer section of the dial. Legibility is as outstanding as ever, with white dial markings and hands popping against the black background. Speaking of the hands, the minute and chronograph second hands are going to be slightly curved, following the contour of the step dial. Lume doesn't take up considerable surface area, being prominent in the hour markers and the hands, yet it is quite effective in its greenish hue, resembling classic tritium. Omega has been slowly but steadily refining its movements in recent years, with the goal of having all of its mechanical offerings getting the coaxial and master chronometer treatment. One of the longest holdouts, though, in getting both of these revolutionary innovations was the Speedmaster Moonwatch, with the previous 1861 movement being used for decades. That all changed in 2021 when Omega officially ushered in two of its most highly regarded aspects of movement technology into the chronograph legend. Since this is a Sapphire version, we have view of the 3861, which works off of the Lemania 1873 base, making for a familiar look that is all the more capable. Spending the additional $1,000 gives you a chance to see the Côte de Genève on the bridges, polished screw heads, you have jewel sinks, and a tasteful movement architecture that is as timeless as the watch itself. When it comes to the performance specifications, the cam-actuated chronograph runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour, or 3 Hz, has a free-sprung balance architecture with silicon balance spring, and has a power reserve of 50 hours. Since this is a master chronometer, a chronometer standard that was developed by Omega with the Swiss Federal Institute of Metrology that premiered in 2015, you have several added benefits. For one, the movement after assembly is first COSC certified, and once fully cased up, will proceed with further master chronometer testing. This will include magnetic tests to ensure resistance to magnetic fields up to 15,000 Gauss, water resistance testing, with this one being rated to 50 meters, accuracy tests that ensures that the watch runs no worse than 0 to +5 seconds a day, a range that outdoes the COSC standard of -4 to +6 seconds, and several other tests beyond that, but these are some of the ones that are probably going to be most felt in your day-to-day wear. Beyond the more sophisticated bells and whistles, the Omega 3861 is a hand-winding movement and features hacking, meaning that the second hand will stop once you pull the crown to the farthest position. So now some closing thoughts on the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch Professional with the Sapphire sandwich configuration. One of the biggest questions I think most people have when looking at the Speedmaster right now in the current catalog is Hesalite versus Sapphire. Which one should I go for? And I'm just gonna ask you some questions and you guys can determine what is the right fit for you, because I can't truly make that decision for you. You have to really think about this and what you value most. One question I would ask, do you care more about modern material, or do you care more about upholding the classic Speedmaster form with the Hesalite? Scratch resistance is just one of the reasons to consider what crystal type you go for. There is a slightly different look also that comes with the Hesalite too that I think is worthy of considering as well. Also, do you like the subtle design changes with more polishing? You have the applied logo in the Sapphire. Do you like that more? Also, do you like the added benefit of being slightly thinner than that of the Hesalite? It's not going to be noticeable on the wrist. These watches wear basically the same on the wrist, since all the thickness for the Hesalite is going to be coming from that crystal itself. But I think these last two questions are going to be the most important with determining which route do you want to go for. One of them is going to be, do you want to see the 3861? The 3861 is a beautiful movement, and if this is your first time or one of your first times spending this type of money on a watch, you might want to be able to see this movement on the reverse side to show people in your life that, hey, I'm not crazy, look at how awesome this is. And then the obvious point too that goes along with all of this, are you willing to spend an additional $1,000 to be able to get that view of the Sapphire exhibition case back? I don't think there's necessarily a wrong choice, it's just a choice that you need to make for yourself. But beyond that, what you're getting is a watch that is one of the most definitive icons in the history of watchmaking in a contemporary form. The 3861 coaxial master chronometer movement is beautiful to look at, it's professionally capable. These watches will work with basically any attire that you can think of. They're versatile as can be, they wear on so many wrists effectively. Do not get caught up in this being a 42mm watch. I promise you, you will be so pleased when you put this watch on your wrist for the first time, and probably will be shocked about how it can work for you, as well as it can work for somebody else in your life that maybe would never suspect that something like this could fit them. This is one of the most universal cases in watchmaking, period. The bracelet is comfortable. The only point that I would bring up about the bracelet is that micro adjustment point. How I would recommend sizing it is have it be comfortable when it's fully pressed in with that micro adjustment, and if you ever need some relief, you'd have that on the fly available to you. And finishing on this watch is well done. It feels of a watch of its price, if not slightly more. It's just a beautiful timepiece to look at in the modern interpretation of an unimpeachable classic. All right, guys, that's all we have for this video. If you did enjoy it, please give this video a thumbs up. Really do appreciate that. But also, if you are in the market for this watch, it is available on TeddyBaldassarre.com. TeddyBaldassarre.com is an authorized dealer for over 30 brands. Every purchase from our website supports the content, but also comes with a full factory warranty, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support. And also, if you have any questions for us, reach out to us on live chat. We have team members around the clock, 18 hours a day. If you have questions for us, any watch on our website, feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to help. But all right, guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.